Thanks, Doug. It's great to see all of you. Thanks for coming. Named faculty positions are just extremely important for the individual, as you know, in the national presence and getting things done, and also for the university. And they really are the hallmark of every great university. And Michigan State, with support from the foundation, has been working very hard to increase the number of named faculty positions. They are, as Doug said, awarded to the most outstanding faculty and are meant to recognize exceptional leadership and research productivity. So, Taps and Brian, we're expecting a lot. They are held, as Doug said, by the recipients throughout their academic life at the university, and they include a 5-year unrestricted stipend for research support. And checks in the mail. You guys got your money yet? checks in the mail. So, and foundation professors are really expected to continue their innovative research and take on leadership roles across the university in all its aspects and all parts of its intellectual life. So, Brian's research seeks to understand how inflammation in the nervous system leads to long-term changes in neural circuitry, and in order to develop new therapies for a broad range of nervous system disorders, and we'll be hearing about that. TAPS develops cutting-edge statistical theory and methods in a wide range of fields. In business analytics, medical bioinformatics, biomedical engineering, and data analysis actually for the effort next door here. And having them as foundation professors will help guarantee the continued growth and quality impact of the departments of physiology and statistics and probability and the neuroscience program. These professorships, though, have much broader impact. Having strong faculty members on campus leads to us being able to recruit strong postdocs, strong graduate students, and other strong faculty members. So this is, this is an autocatalytic kind of thing. These things really help the university grow in all its aspects. And together, they help ensure that future alumni, part of this is about development, future alumni will have the education and experience they need to compete for the best jobs and to take on leadership roles nationally and internationally in building and maintaining scientific leadership. So again, Brian, Taps, congratulations, and we're looking forward to your talk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim Galligan. I'm a Neuroscience Program Director, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Brian Gulbranson on the occasion of his investiture as an MSU Foundation Professor. Brian received his BS in Zoology and Physiology from the University of Wyoming and his PhD in Neuroscience from the University of Colorado in Denver. After completing his PhD, he moved to Canada to take up a postdoctoral position at the University of Calgary, where he became interested in the enteric nervous system, what we all call the little brain in the gastrointestinal tract. While in Canada, Brian began to establish an excellent track record of competing for research support. He was the recipient of a Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of Canada Individual Fellowship, an Achievers in Medical Science Postdoctoral Scholarship, and the Canadian Institutes of Health and Research Individual Fellowship. We were very fortunate to recruit Brian to MSU in August of 2012 when he joined the neuroscience faculty and the Department of Physiology. While at MSU, Brian has continued his remarkable record of competing successfully for extramural funding. He is the recipient have a long list of stuff here. Senior Research Award from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America, and then grants from the National Institutes of Health, Department of Defense, Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association Foundation, and the American Neurogastroenterology and Motility Society. Brian's an enthusiastic, clever, and very productive investigator. Since joining the faculty at MSU, he has published 14 peer-reviewed papers in collaboration with his research team of technicians, undergraduate students, graduate students, and postdoctoral fellows. This level of productivity is truly exceptional. More importantly, Brian's research has greatly influenced the field of enteric neuroscience by bringing to the forefront the importance of the long-neglected glial cell. Brian has discovered that glial cells are critical partners with nerve cells in controlling GI function in healthy people, but more importantly, glial cells are key players in gastrointestinal diseases such as ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and the irritable bowel syndrome. Each of these diseases is difficult to treat as there are no universally effective drugs or other treatments available. Brian's discoveries have opened up new opportunities for a better understanding of the causes of these troubling diseases, and more importantly, he's opened up new opportunities for developing effective therapies that may cure these diseases. Brian's outstanding research accomplishments have earned him the Beverly Peterson Bishop Award for Excellence in Neuroscience Research from the American Physiological Society in 2016. Brian is also an excellent teacher and mentor for his students. He makes major contributions to the teaching mission of the neuroscience program and the Department of Physiology. His teaching covers undergraduate neuroscience majors, neuroscience and physiology PhD students, and medical students in the College of Medicine. He receives uniformly high praise from the students he teaches. Brian is also an outstanding mentor for his PhD students and postdoctoral fellows. He provides excellent research training, and he also helps his trainees develop the professional skills needed for success in a scientific career. An MSU Foundation professorship is very prestigious, and the neuroscience program and the Department of Physiology are very proud and grateful to have one of our faculty be a recipient of this prestigious award. Brian is an exemplar of what an MSU Foundation professorship represents. With this as a backdrop, it's now time to hear from Brian about his remarkable work with the tiny, underappreciated glial cell. Brian.
Thanks so much, Jim, and thanks to everybody. It's really an honor to be standing here, and really my pleasure to tell you a little bit about the work that this foundation professorship will support. So what I'm interested in are these things called functional gastrointestinal disorders. And the reason that I'm interested in these is because these are among the most common chronic medical conditions known to man, and they affect about 25% of humans. So that's a huge number of people worldwide. And there's really no good cure for these things, and there's no good therapy. The cost of just IBS, for example, so IBS is the abbreviation for irritable bowel syndrome, is on the order of $30 billion a year in the United States. And so if you can extrapolate that now to the whole world, it's a lot of people and a lot of money. So these are typically things that affect the gut, so inflammatory bowel diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, things like slow transit constipation. But we're becoming to appreciate now that gastrointestinal problems are also associated with a number of other disorders like diabetes, Parkinson's, obesity, and Alzheimer's. And a lot of times the GI complications are more detrimental to daily life than some of the other problems these people have. So what's causing all these problems? So when I have a difficult problem, I usually think about going kayaking. But I'm usually thinking about going kayaking, so this is fine. So, in this case, it's actually useful because kayaking is a good analogy for about everything in life, I've decided. So I know this is a stretch, but if you can imagine that this river here is an intestine, and these two guys here, this is me and this is my son Gabe over here kayaking, are a couple of cells in this intestine. You can see what happens when these two things communicate well. And really it all breaks down to things communicating well in your gut. So this is an example of things communicating well. usually when we're talking to each other, things are working out well. You can see things move down the intestine pretty good. But when we're not communicating so well, so the guy in the blue boat there didn't tell his son in the orange boat that there was a big hole, you can see things get a little bit more complicated and you can get backups, right? Things don't work. Okay, so the same thing happens in your gut. And it takes a lot of little cells talking to each other the right way for things to move down the gut the right way and for all these things to be coordinated. So these two videos that you're looking at here are actually pieces of animal intestine, and so these are from a guinea pig. And so the one on the left there is a piece of colon, and the one on the right is a piece of ileum. And so what you're watching in this dish are a couple of the basic reflexive activities of the gut, and it's able to do all these things by itself without any input from the brain or spinal cord, because the gut has all the cells needed talking to each other in the walls of the gut itself. So the most important part of this is the little brain of the gut, as Jim alluded to. And so this is called the enteric nervous system. And so we have about 100 million neurons in the walls of our gut. So it's a huge component of the nervous system and about as big as a cat's brain. So most of the focus in the field over the last century or so has been focused on these neurons and the way the neurons are talking to each other. But like Jim said, there's another cell type in the nervous system that surrounds these cells called glia. And these glia were classically thought of as these quiet, passive cells that just provided support for the neurons. But we didn't think that was true, and so we've been asking more questions about what these cells are doing. And so these glial cells, it turns out, are pretty neat. They're a different type of cell. They're not like any other type of cell found in the body, but they share characteristics to some of the different types of glia that are kind of sister cells that are in the brain and the spinal cord. And so we've used some of what we know about those types of cells to think about how we know that glial cells work. So what we found out about these glia is that neurons actually talk to glia. And this was a major finding in the field because we thought that these cells were just passive. But then once we understood that neurons were talking to glia, that opened up the door for a lot of other questions about what were these glia doing and could they talk back to other cell types or influence different functions. And so these two videos that are cycling here are just showing a couple of different videos of calcium imaging. And so these things flashing away there, those are actually the enteric glial cells. And so this little thing outlined here, this is an enteric ganglion, and this is an enteric ganglion from a mouse. And all those green things or blue things on the left lighting up are glia. And so those neurons are talking to glia here. And so over the past couple of years, we've asked, okay, well, the neurons are talking to glia. How about the glia talking back? And what we found is, yes, the glia do talk back, and they actually tell the neurons to tell the gut to contract more. And so we can increase contractions by influencing the activity of glial cells. We've also found that the glia tell different types of neurons that are influencing the mucosa to secrete more fluid out into the lumen of the gut. So the glia are telling different types of neural circuits in the gut to tell the gut to contract more and to secrete more fluid. And what we've also found is under special conditions in inflammation, those glia can actually change and they can kill off different types of neurons if those neurons aren't functioning correctly. And those glia can make the executive decision that this neuron is too far gone, we need it out of there, and they can kill those neurons off. And then lately what we found more interesting actually is that glia talk to the immune system, and they provide this bridge between neurons and the immune system. And glia can actually sense when neurons are sick, when there's an invasion of bacteria around the nervous system in the gut. And they can call in different types of immune cells to clear out these different types of problems. And the immune cells themselves can influence glia, and things that these immune cells are releasing can alter the way these glial cells function and can change the type of glia that are there. And then these glial cells work differently than they normally would. And we think that these are some of the key cellular events that cause the gut basically to not work in functional GI disorders. So we think that understanding these mechanisms in more detail is going to lead to new therapies for common disorders like irritable bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel diseases. So I just want to finish by thanking a lot of people that have helped me out. So first and foremost, thank you, my family, for supporting me, my kayaking and science hobbies. And I want to extend a huge thank you to my lab here, So my lab back there, most of them have actually come. And so these are the people that are doing the work day to day and are really responsible for all the work that you saw. And you know, I couldn't have done this without all their support and their hard work. So I owe them a huge thanks. They've been great. I have a great crew of people in there. Of course, I want to thank the Michigan State University Foundation. It's a huge honor to be chosen as a foundation professor, and hope I can live up to the expectations of that. I also want to thank the College of Natural Science, the MSU Neuroscience Program, and the MSU Department of Physiology. All three have been huge supporters, and getting started at MSU and conducting research here has really been a pleasure, and it wouldn't have been possible without people like Jim Kirkpatrick, Jim Galligan, and Lee Cox, who have supported both my professional development and my research program as I've gotten going. So thank you all.
My name is Fred Riviance. I'm the chair of the statistics department here at MSU. And it's my honor to say a few introductory words about Tapabrata Maiti, who is a professor and graduate director in the Department of Statistics and Probability here at MSU on the occasion of his investiture as MSU Foundation Professor. Among friends and colleagues, he goes by TAPS. However, he is certainly mighty. Though I've only had the pleasure of knowing him well since my arrival here a little more a year ago, it's clear that his impact on our department and our university has been decisive since his arrival in 2008, and his positive influence can be expected to continue. Dr. Maiti hails from the state of West Bengal in India. It's probably soon to be known as Bengal as well. He received his PhD from the University of Kalyani while he was working at the Indian Statistical Institute in nearby Kolkata. As a grad student, he worked on the theory of statistical inference and finite population sampling. It's a technique which applies to any large-scale scientific data collection process. Drawing on experiences as a postdoc at the Harvard Medical School in his early career, his work expanded to hierarchical models and associated Bayesian inference, what we call Bayesian inference, which he applied to public health and government policy research on pediatric cancers and later to machine learning for cancer detection and disease cluster detection and climate change. He is currently invested in high-dimensional statistics and many other things, and he's building, in high-dimensional stat, he's building computational predictive models which can assimilate image and observational data. There are many other things that TAPS has been doing, and it's very, very difficult to go through the whole list. His interdisciplinary work reaches far and wide, including collaborations at MSU with engineers, radiologists, neuroscientists, physicists, marketing scholars, and medical professionals. And I'm proud to say that despite our very distinct backgrounds, I count myself as an active research collaborator of TAPS's. We're working on a Bayesian uncertainty quantification question with nuclear theorists from MSU's Facility for Rare Isotope Beams, as Professor Kirkpatrick mentioned a little while ago. And so maybe a few words about his later part of his career before he came to MSU. His career took him to the University of Lincoln, Nebraska at Lincoln, and then to Iowa State University, and then he arrived here. His internationally recognized work has led to professional stints and memberships in various learned societies throughout the world, and again, the list is too long to go through, including, I should mention, serving as a research fellow at the Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata, senior research fellow at the U.S. Census Bureau, special government employee at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and various academic positions in a number of countries, including Australia, China, Portugal, the UK. And he is also a fellow of the American Statistical Association and the Institute of Mathematical Statistics. And I should add that being fellow in those two societies simultaneously is not that common, even for fellows of one of them. His research is characterized by a unique combination of skills and expertises, resulting in peer-reviewed publications in a wide spectrum of scientific outlets. He is well funded by awards from the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, and the USDA National Resources Conservation Service. Back in our department here at STT, we call it, here at MSU, we're very proud and indeed we're indebted to TAPS for his work in expanding the department's graduate programs. He has advised about 20 PhD students, and he continues strongly. He has been instrumental in developing MSU's MS program in business analytics. And as our world enters the age of data, I easily envision Dr. Tapsmaiti leading MSU's charge in expanding graduate education and research in data science. The recognition of MSU Foundation Professor is prestigious and rightly so. Congratulations, mighty professor. You're up.
Right. Thank you, Frederick. Thanks, everybody. I don't have really many fancy pictures, movies, although I'm involved with some of this stuff, whatever you have already seen. I guess instead of going to the boring mathematical modeling to you guys, possibly I should be also touching base with broader community what I do here and what I'm going to do in next few years. That's possibly I'll try to touch base. Well, as you can see, my title of the talk is not really technical. A statistician at the junction of big data and data science. So I'll definitely touch these three things: statistician, big data, data science. So I think that's the kind of the significant move for me from Hawkeye to Spartan. Certainly, it was a good move. I have to say it because my family is pretty happy here. My wife got another degree from College of Education. My daughter is growing up here happily. So it was a good move. And the department, particularly the Michigan Statistics Probability and the Michigan State accepted me, welcomed me very well. I still remember the meeting with Dean Kirkpatrick very first day. It was scheduled to be half an hour, but it went about an hour, and department thought, what this guy is doing? But it was a lovely conversation. After coming here immediately in 2008, things are happening as I expected. In this phase of my career, I became the fellow of American Statistical Association, the world's largest organization in statistics. Became the fellow of Institute of Mathematical Statistics. I played major role for expanding research and education, different school on campus, including the business analytics. And of course, I had already collaborations with almost all the schools, except possibly I have to say the music or some of the thing. I don't know how to play the music. So here is the current things, definitely what's lately happening, which we are very excited about, particularly the department. Myself already mentioned that we have been collaborating with EFRIB, and hopefully we can be key member pretty soon. This project has started just a year ago with some of the scientists over there. Among other things, there are many things, but I like to mention a couple of things. One is you know that neuroscience. This is another area where big data, data science is going to play a big role, and I have been already collaborating with scientists on this campus, where they are generating a huge amount of image data every day. And one of the objectives what I do here is you take this image and then put into your statistical machine and try to predict, suppose a mild Alzheimer's disease patient, how soon he's going to be completely Alzheimer's, or how long he is going to be intact in that stage. So some of the complicated things we have been, it's a very complicated, difficult problem, not only from scientific perspective, also from the statistical perspective, because we haven't seen this huge data before. The other important thing or exciting thing I have been doing with the College of Engineering, some of the mechanical engineers who are developing the model for different organ of our body, like heart, lung, and use thousands of like differential equations. They have these computer programs which can run over the day or even 12 days. and they can predict here the condition of your heart without even looking the patient. But here is the things coming in. When the patient come in, usually you have some images done immediately in the clinic. Then can we combine this, the computer model and the image, and quickly come up to some recommendation to the medical doctor that what's going to happen in next 1 hour or so. So one day objective is to first convert that highly complicated, like thousands differential equations, into a simplistic statistical models where the doctor can at least understand. So that is one of the things going on, and recently it has been funded by NIH U01, part of the collaboration with University of Michigan. So that's there. And all that good? This was me, I think, a few years ago, and now see me how I am. So, but I feel good. It's good, all good. As I said that I need to definitely going to talk a little bit about the future, particularly the future of statistics and this campus, the role of statisticians. And in personally, I think that this is a very good time to be a statistician. As many of you heard about that data science, data scientist, this is one of the sexiest jobs in this 21st century. And it is obvious that there would be a big shortage for the data scientist in next few years. Here's some of the information, like McKinsey Global Institute, who kind of predicted that in 2018 there would be millions of jobs, and definitely for this type of job we need trained people. Really, anybody cannot just join. Pretty good. The student's average salary is over 100,000, and it was the #1 job in 2016. But what is data science? If you just Google it, there would be number of different versions. Here is one version from Wikipedia, but clearly from this picture, one can see that this is interdisciplinary science, but statistics is everywhere. You can see basically in the the statistics, math, machine learning also combined with the stat, all sorts of things are there. But it's an emerging field. Already there are 500 programs. Sometimes the programs' names are different, like data science, business analytics, predictive analytics, computational statistics, depending on the strength on campus, whatever we have. But what I'm going to put that some of my observations and my outlook along the things, what's happening in this community. So essentially it is a balancing between 3 major pillars: statistics, computer science, and information management. And of course there will be all specializations. Already I mentioned neuroscientists, health scientists, everybody would be together. And quantitative background such as basic training in statistics, mathematics, computer science definitely is needed. And there would be 3 pillars very quickly. There are statistical foundations, there would be computer science foundations, and essentially we will be just like this. We started like this way, human being, but now we are with the computer, in front of the computer will be like that. So that's the kind of my future I can see in that way. And information science foundations, that is another pillar which certainly statisticians are not very well equipped. We need to do those part. And here is the relation between scientists and data science and statistics. So I like this definition that a data scientist is someone who is better at statistics than any software engineer, and better at software engineer than any statistician. So clearly I'm not also saying that statistics is data science or data science is statistics, but we are in between. As I said, that American Statistical Association is the world's largest professional organizations in statistics, and they have some definition and some way how to work for the data science. And we acknowledge that data science is just not statistics, but certainly statistics is going to play a major role. And in my personal opinion, it is not a threat, it is our opportunity to work with all other scientists, just not with ourselves. And it might help to grow all three different disciplines, computer science, mathematics, information management, along with many other sub-disciplines would be helpful if we can really dig into the in details and work together. Of course, for statisticians, we have much thing to do. As you can see, the average statistician is just plain mean. Again, I didn't put that thing. So.
Is that a camembert or what is that?
I don't know. So it is very, very important that we get engaged with computer scientists, database scientists, and we do the distributed computing, all sorts of things. We develop the new tools where the existing statistical methods can be imported or transported to this comfortable way, all these other things. And of course, there is an associated thing is the big data that we have to dig in. And now, so I just mentioned data science, statistics. Now, what is the relationship with big data? In general way, that's again, no concrete definitions, but it is so huge that simple, my laptop, I cannot deal with these things. I need probably some kind of supercomputer to deal this big data. But what is the relation with big data? That's what I need to, I'll just mention. But here is the big data potential. And just to be brief, to get the idea about the big data, if you bound all the data created in just one day onto DVDs, you could stack them on top of each other and reach to the moon twice. At the moment, less than 0.5% of all data ever analyzed and used. So we are generating data much faster than how much we know even. And here is the situation essentially. We have this type of gigantic data, but we know a little bit, but most difficult is that which part we need to know. Always, how do I know that this is the part will be floating above the water? That's very difficult to know. And that's where the data science and big data coming in. At the beginning, this is the cartoon I like, kind of Mickey Mouse cartoon. So this is the big data. He thinks that, oh, the data science, you don't know. I'm so big, I can just grab you. But after a while, when we learn this big data, we can say that this is the part of your body is good. This is the part your brain is here. If I can identify all these things using my tools, particularly the statistical tools, then we can become the friend, that big data science and big data becomes the friend together. Otherwise, there is no hope. So essentially what we have to do, we have to learn what is inside of the big data. And again, as you know that we don't need to know everything, but it is much more important which part we need to know. Even it's a small part, which part we need to know. So that's a very important thing. These are the people, or these are the things which are generating big data every day: e-commerce, imaging, social media, medical records, satellite data, government records. And some of the application of the big data going very fast way, like all the search engines, image recognitions, fraud detections. Mostly I am involved in image recognition situations. This next thing is coming, self-driving cars, which will generate millions of data immediately in every second. So we have to analyze all these things. And the world is ready, every schools, everybody is getting prepared to deal with big data using these three pillars: statistics, computer science, and information science. So certainly there is a future, and where are we? We are the spot on. So I'd like to thank you, Michigan State, and we are there.
So we now come to the part of the program where we hand over the big iron. And so I'd like to invite Brian to come forward. So I should add that if these go really well with like half-button Hawaiian shirts. So your next trip to Jersey or Miami Beach will be really well. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great work.
Well, I'm the end of the program, and I'd like to say that by the time I'm done speaking, there should be a high probability we'll get to improve our gastrointestinal health. I wrote that myself, Jim. What do you think? It's not too bad. Well, let me just offer my congratulations from the Michigan State University Foundation. I know what you're thinking. You hear the word MSU Foundation and you immediately go to fundraiser, endowment, but that's not actually who we are or what we do. We're actually a research foundation, and we were set up in the very early 70s to be that strategic resource that Doug talked about, to help MSU do things that sort of other universities can't do. And our biggest inflection point was created by a professor here named Barnett Rosenberg, who is now deceased, but he was a professor here who noticed when you put certain platinum-based compounds into cells, they stop dividing. And MSU filed some patents on this work and ended up licensing those patents to Bristol Myers Squibb. And the result of that technology and the result of that innovation was a blockbuster therapeutic called cisplatin and subsequently carboplatin. And the impact that technology and the impact that invention had on the world is that it saved millions of lives for people who had dealt with testicular or ovarian cancers. And so that was a innovation that was created right here at MSU that really had a big impact on people's lives. And the other impact it had is that it made MSU a lot of royalties. And so over the years, those compounds created about $325 million in royalties that came back to Michigan State University, and they took that cash and parked it in the MSU Foundation. And so we're not fundraisers. We essentially manage that pile of royalties, if you will, and we've grown it today to about $450 million. And MSU is the sole beneficiary of the foundation's dollars. So our objective is to continue to grow that endowment and then use the proceeds to fund a number of things on campus. So we, at our very core, we donate about $10 million plus back to the university every year. I will say, though, that we give it in large chunks to the president and the provost and the vice president of research. So don't come knocking on our door. We send it to Doug and let him deal with that. Some of the other programs that we're interested in are trying to find things that could possibly have the same effect that cisplatin and carboplatin had on our campus. And so we are very involved with MSU Technologies. That's the intellectual property office on campus that's located in the MSU Innovation Center. So if you have great inventions and you think it could have the kind of impact that a cisplatin would have, submit those invention disclosures to our MSU Technologies group. We also run a company called Spartan Innovations. It's a venture development organization. Think of that as a pipeline of ideas that could possibly turn into startup companies. And then we have another company called Red Cedar Ventures. It's a university venture fund. It provides pre-seed money to entrepreneurs, whether they're students or faculty or staff who have ideas to have the kind of impact that a cisplatin has had. And then finally, we operate the research park down on the southwest corner of campus. It's across from the University Club. about 100 acres of land out there, and then we have several buildings out there. And those buildings are used to house our startups and also house companies that come to collaborate with gastroenterology, people who do the type of work that our foundation professors do. So that's really what we do at the foundation. A couple of years ago, Doug and his colleagues had this challenge where the president asked him to increase the number of endowed chairs. And so this was just right in the sweet spot of the MSU Foundation. And so we're very, very thrilled that we can use these resources that we are lucky enough to steward on behalf of the foundation to turn these into, important professorships, for attracting and retaining our very best. So let me just conclude by, again, on behalf of our board and our staff, we'd like to offer our congratulations to you both on this award, and we'll look forward to inviting you to present to one of our board meetings sometime in the very near future. So I think that's it. I'm the final act here, and I think that there's going to be some photography that happens for the recipients, and then the rest can go and start in on the treats. So thank you again, and congratulations.